Hello, everyone, and welcome to the seventh episode of the Commerce DevCast, where we try to dig into the e-commerce and figure out how to do better, and also advise merchants how to do things better. On this day, we are going to discuss the topic related to the very essentials of the relationships between the agencies that are providing e-commerce services for the merchants. So we'll touch a couple aspects of it, but I think this episode would be super interesting for the merchants itself, because we will also discuss some of the pitfalls and how to build the relationship with the agencies in order to avoid potential issues with the budget and the delivery of your solutions that you expect them to have. Welcome our host, Alexander Kravchuk, the guy from the WeConnect, the department lead. Hi, Alexander. And of course, the Vitaly Boyko, a senior Magento 2 developer and Adobe Commerce developer from the Carry company. Hi, Vitaly.
Hi, everyone.
And me, Vladislav Podorozhny, software tech and partner in the Runsroot GmbH. So let's start, perhaps. I think, first of all, we need to discuss how is the development made for the various e-commerce projects. There are two general ways of how you do the development. It's with the on-site developers, right? Or you go into the agency and hiring the agency with the area of expertise that you need, right? So, Alexander, could you maybe share a bit of information about the how does it work out? Because I think you have an experience in both areas. You've been on both sides. You've been as an on-site developer. You've been as an agency developer.
Yeah, I think that we should probably step a little bit back and start like why do we have this topic and why do we need discussion about developers and these technical things? Because e-commerce, it's a bit different from other kind of businesses. It's a business that requires a lot of technical knowledge to do it, because that depends on the wide set of technologies that you need to understand and work with before you actually can start selling something online. And for this, if the merchant, the person who is doing business, he is not or she is not very technical person, they need partner or a person who can help him with it. We can split this part into two ways of how relationship between the technical component and let's say the business part of the e-commerce can be connected together. One thing is when the business hires an employee for their company or like buying the resources or from our staff providers in order to do the service directly for the business. And another way is when business buys services from agencies or freelancers. The difference is quite significant. In the first case, that you are having the person, you have their skills and their time, but then you drive the direction and then you drive the whole processes, how things and in what direction will be developed. And the second thing that you are having the person or a team who are specialized into doing e-commerce business, and you can borrow their experience, their expertise in order to make your business better and to help it thrive. So as you said that, but I'm not agree with you. I was only on the one part of on this relationship. I mostly worked with agencies.
You're referring to the fact that I told that you were working on site and as a developer from the agency?
Exactly.
So
I'm referring to this.
You are not. You're only working on an agency side.
I worked on an agency that's out. It's not called out staff. That time we are fully responsible for the project from our side. But it ended up that after a year, when we sent project live, that we started actually to have some out staff team that we are just sharing with our client, and they are taking the whole process and decisions on their own. But the main
that
part
was still
of my
from
career,
the agency part, right? So you were handling the agency things. First of
yes, and there I think that that it's sometimes hard to draw a line. Yeah, for me it's mostly like when the strategy vision came from. Because hey, we have business, we have an agency. Yeah, agency have a lot of expertise how to do e-commerce. Business know how to do e-commerce in their part, and then we can have a synergy.
Right? In ideal world.
That's usually how it works. I mean,
Uh,
there could be some
there are some agencies that
outliers.
have no fucking expertise. I'm sorry.
There could be some, let's call it outliers, or some unfair relationships that are built from agencies, which in fact are not really, acting like an agency, or I mean, they're not acting like a partner. They're acting rather like a technical provider of resources, and usually it's end up that they hire some people and then just reselling hours for doing some things that they are not really know how to do things. But I think that this is a bit another topic that we can talk a bit about later. But in general, for me, the main difference between agencies, when you business is asking agencies to provide service, and from hiring or buying development hours, it's about technical vision and taking responsibilities and the leadership of things, because agency can help business to do things better, and when we having the developers, the business know itself how to do the best for their.
Okay. So to summarize, you could hire someone to be near you as the business, and this person will going to do the development, but he will be limited in expertise most likely, because that could be just like only backend developer, right, or only front-end developer, and so on and so on. But yeah,
But to summarize, like business, if business know their strategy, how they are going to develop and when they're going to grow, they hire people to do work for them. They hire
Mhm.
people to improve their SEO, conversion rate, whatever. If business is looking for an advice how to, I don't know, how to develop in the certain directions, what will be the best features to implement to increase their conversion rate, and etc., then they could hire agency, and agency will take the responsibility on this part, and will help together the business to build this feature to their e-commerce. That's the bottom line.
Okay, so you're trying to say that if business doesn't know what to do, he goes to the agency help it out, right? So
Yes.
if they have no expertise in e-commerce, on marketing or other areas, they should go to
Yes.
the,
Usually, yes. If they are looking for a partner, they're going for agency.
and most of the merchants has no experience in that area. That's why
Uh,
they are going to the agencies then to help them out. Actually,
it
that's
depends
that's
on
what I think.
It usually depends on the business size, because if it's small to medium business, that could be often that the owner of the business is the person who are taking decisions, and the person who are actually looking for agencies, and it's usually one. It could be one person, yeah. In a big company, there could be different managers, e-commerce, marketing, and so on and so on. And there could be a lot of people, and they could have this expertise on site, because
Yeah,
it
so
also depends.
if it's a big company, most likely they would have someone on site, but we don't have much of. So most of the companies are medium size. That's what I'm
Yes,
trying to say.
if you want to build your e-commerce strategy, but you are not ready to hire another person on a full time, let's go it like this, or another few people to build your e-commerce strategy, then you will go for agency and ask about the industry best practices and how they can help you to improve your e-commerce business.
But that's not about the saving money for the labor, right? That's about more the getting the expertise, because most
Of
likely it would be
course,
cheaper to hire someone on site than go to the agency, right?
definitely. That's definitely agencies are more expensive option,
Hmm.
because you are paying not only for hours, you are also paying for experience. Because usually agency is like entity that works with many e-commerce businesses, and they have their expertise from like many areas, and they know better how to build things right up. Usually, let's believe in it. Usually, if things are going in the right direction, then agency know that's true. That agency know how to do things better. Because when you are hiring person and person doesn't have experience with doing something, then you also pay for education. You will also pay for research. You will also pay for the whole process where it will take from the discovering feature and the implementation. Sometimes agency also can have experience with building these things, and you'll still ending up like, I don't know, either splitting bill or paying for this experience if it's something that agency are not interested in. But yeah, agency are more expensive option. That's true.
Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah. That's what I experienced as well, to be honest. And yeah, so I used to work as the kind of a freelancer for the products, and usually in such cases you're getting hired by the actual merchant or actual company that is delivering this product, and they have a very strong expertise in the area you are going to. So otherwise, that would have not worked out. I remember there was a project where there was like 200 freelancers in different areas, and there was like 10 people managing all of that shit. And those 10 people were also actually the freelancers that got managed by one or two guys from the actual company. Yeah, so you could scale up actually. Anyway, Vitaly, what's your experience? What do you think about all of
I
that?
think
So the
that's
agency on site development. Yeah.
Well, I would advocate a little bit on having someone like having strong leadership on the on-site side of things, because like for example for middle and big type of companies, big size of companies, it's crucially important to have more control on the project, because I believe there is a little conflict of interest between clients and agencies. Let's be honest, because sometimes uh, agencies' interest can influence on decision making, and sometimes we can like look as great idea. For example, new fancy technology pops up, and agency might have need to have it in the portfolio to maximize their margin in future, and that might impact on decision making. So having strong leadership on client side can prevent from this to happen. And it also gives you more option, because there are different types of agencies. We have like agencies that can take the whole ownership of the project, like providing project managers, CTOs, and stuff. So you would just go like make technical requests for them, technical tasks, and they provide everything from scratch to finish. And we have outstaff agencies that which just provide like a workforce which is cheaper, and you manage stuff on your side with your this leadership. So you have more options. You can hire freelancers, you can hire fractional specialists. So I believe it's great to have such person on your side, but downside is like those people who has huge expertise, they are rare, and they are expensive, and it not always makes sense to hire them. For example, if you don't have huge scope of work, maybe it doesn't make sense to have such a person in your stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I totally agree with you about the conflict of interest, that the agency profits and the success of the agency doesn't really mean that the customer succeed. So the normal agencies that understand that they're trying to make their customers, the merchants they are partnering with, to be successful, because on that depends the long-term relationship and long-term success of their own. But there are many, I would not call them scam, but there are many
unfair.
agencies that, yeah, not fair agencies that don't understand that, and they are thinking about how to sell you more hours and just go to the West, and that's it. So I remember when I started working in one of the agencies, we had a group of the developers, a group of the expertise in it, that were trying to convince the client to not buy the things or to not implement the things that were sold by the office in the Netherlands to them, because that doesn't really need it for them, right? So some of the features or some of the solutions that got sold in, I would say, to become the bigger partner with another agency or with another company. Yeah. So there were such like of situations that we had even the conflicts because of that, because we were working for the agency and we were actually shooting in the lack of this agency by that. But I truly believe that it gave a little bit more confidence for this client and a little bit more resources for this client to invest it in a much more valuable things for his business case. Yeah. So that used to happen sometimes, and I think it happens in other agencies as well from time to time. What do you think, Alex?
Yeah, I think that's we just slightly moved it into a kind of philosophical plane
Oh yeah.
because Yeah, you're totally right that there is a kind of conflict of interest because I mean business exists to earn money. That's simple fact, and yeah, you cannot survive if you are not earning money. And for agencies earning money and for e-commerce business earning money, they're coming from different sources, and that's like another kind of if you are let's say disabled and don't think in a utilitaristic way, if not count everything in the money, there's also could be things like a trust and a transparency and a reputation that you also build by providing your services. And the agencies that behave not really fair usually also then end up badly, because when you're trying to convince your client to buy things that they don't really need, when you're trying to, let's call it, cheat by selling some extra services that doesn't bring any business value, that you ending up as being a, let's say, disappointment for a merchant, and most likely they will just start looking for another agency who can provide the better services in a better quality than you. That's true. That's true.
How can you track that? My point is that this is why it's important to have strong leadership, or at least try to get some knowledge if you have no resources for those people to hire those people, in order to have control on the project. You can go blindly nowadays. This is what I meant.
Yeah, you need to have strong leadership on a merchant side to work in partnership with the agency. Not only because they could be unfair, but because you should. So that's
Yeah,
the people that know your business only from your words. They don't feel it, and the leadership inside your business, inside your merchant area, that's something that will gonna bring up the totally different result for your business at all, with the collaboration partnership with the engine.
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right, because I mean, that's a fact that it's hard to find agency who can be also a partner for you and will help you to build your business as a partner, but they cannot build business for you instead of you. So you should be part of it, and to be part of it, you should be on the same level. Like you should share responsibilities with them, and you also should be responsible for your business. That's the most complicated part. So there are a lot of things involved, and should be very lucky to find this perfect match when you can utilize the agency for 100%.
And you started talking about the perfect match, and I want to share like my feeling that if the agency or the group of people that you're working with are not sharing the same core value, so if the merchant business and your agency or you as a freelancer are not sharing the same core values, that's will not gonna work out pretty well in a long perspective. So it's also important to find the agency that shares your values. I remember the cases when it happened to that agencies were very focused on selling the hours, but not selling the experience and the benefits for the customer. And that's not what the merchant needed. And it ended up by bad solutions that got implemented and carried on through the years. And actually, we are right now in our agency. So that merchant obviously left that agency. So he came to us, and we are approaching a totally different attitude in the work, and he's happy with us. But the damage that has been made by that another agency in their business and in the code base and with the project itself, that's something that we're still handling right now. So we're still having troubles with that from time to time. So yeah, core values, that's important stuff. And that's not only the blah, blah, blah words, that's something that is important. And please, as a merchant, go and talk with the guys that are going to work with you from the agency side, figure out are they okay for you or not. Yeah.
I've actually had a like versa case when the merchant who was like trying to implement everything as simple as dirty as they always ask like for the most simple and dirty solution that we can hack the system just to make things work, just to save some hours. And even if you start explaining like, okay, we can do things like this when you'll save this amount of hours, but in the next year you will spend twice more just to maintain your like project running and like living with this hack. And I like, it was like every time we are like tried to convince them, they changed their mind, and then they came and started it again and again from like, we
Again
need
and again and again.
the cheapest, the dirtiest solution you can give it to us. And yeah, you're right. It's ended up that they just went for some other options just because there was not perfect touch. Even if we try to do our best work and provide them the general cost of ownership as low as possible.
Yeah, so it works in both ways.
There should be much between your values and agency, like between your as a business values and between agencies that you are working with.
That's true. You cannot build something long-standing and something that brings out the good value for both of the partners unless you're sharing the same vision on this world, unfortunately. So we started already talking about a bit of unfair agencies.
Yeah, I think that's
Do you want to continue that?
Vitaly mentioned that how business can actually understand if the agencies are, let's say, fair with them. And the best way to be able to understand it, you should actually know how agencies can be unfair.
Yeah.
So that could be a different ways how agencies could be unfair with merchants, and let's talk about them.
Yeah.
So, Vlad, could you be the first?
Yeah. I could be the first. Agency will gonna hire the junior developer and sell it to the customers as the senior one. That's what I remember happened. Like we were the agency that were doing good job, but we didn't have enough workforce. And then the merchant of ours told us like, hey, I have a good friend of mine, that has that agency and they perhaps could give you some of the developers so we could, in collaboration, do something great for you. And while we had an interview, one of their developers, and this guy were using AI tool to get the right answers. And so he usually on the interview, when you're asking tricky cash question, you want to see that person at least starts thinking, right?
Or struggling, yeah.
Yeah, or struggling a bit, like there is thought processes and zero, just instant answer, like a 2-3 seconds pause, an instant answer, super good, super like well maintained, no pauses, and etc. etc. So it could be once, it could be twice, but not a freaking 5 questions in a row and you just throwing everything at him and he's answering that. Yeah, perhaps he could be that good, but afterwards we talked with some other people and they had the similar experience. Yeah, and you may also Google a lot of tools that help you to pass the interview online, and that was an online interview. So yeah, like that. They tried to sell us the junior developer. Maybe he's a middle developer, but he's not a senior. Yeah, unfortunately. Or maybe he even is, but we've lost the possibility to understand that. So because he's using AI. So that's the whole thing. Your turn, Vitaly.
I heard similar thing, but a bit different. When outstaff agencies are setting up those interviews and selling senior developers, right? But the way of work is remote, so you never know who exactly work on your project behind the scene. And this is, again, disclaimer, I never seen this myself, but I heard from my friends that it happens, that the senior developer, the only thing he just participate in daily meetings and interviews all day long, and actual work is being done by other people. And maybe there is no problem with that if work has good quality, but like we never know.
It's unfair still,
I heard about
right?
this.
Yeah. I think that the important part that it's unfair.
Yeah, there are a lot of things can be done with remote work, you know.
Okay, yeah, that's an interesting case. Alexander.
This is actually a very interesting case because before you would need to have like 2 people to do this trick. Now you just enough to have AI. So you can just hire junior developer who will go to an interview and just with AI will pass it. And then we'll with AI participate, I don't know, on dailies, meetings, whatever, we'll just reply based on what AI will tell you to tell.
Guys, I got question for you. Sorry, maybe it's interruption, but is a junior developer nowadays effective with AI? do you have junior developers in your agencies? Because I'm
Same
kind of
effective as without AI.
I think the problem, that's junior developers are usually used to trust AI more than themselves. And that's really a big problem. And I think this will be a big problem for the next many years. Because, usually when you start as a junior, you struggle a lot. You are learning a lot of things, and depending on the technology, there could be a steep learning curve. So you just need to struggle because it's the part of the process of becoming a middle developer. And with
yeah.
AI, you have a nice tool that can, in a very polite way, explain you how to do things, just how to do things. And usually you just start trusting it, and you are not checking what it's actually telling you. And you can end up in a very bad place just following its advices and what it's telling to you. And the most important part that you are not learning that efficient that you can by just trying to figure out things but your own. Of course, AI is they're revolutionary changing way that how you can educate. They are speeding up things, but you still need to take the responsibility on the things that you are doing on your own and not just trying to fully believe to delegate it to AI and believe that the machine will know better how to do things than you.
So
Yeah.
this is basically the same, like having strong leadership on your side and not like fully trust to agency. Like the same goes to with AI when you developers. You cannot fully trust. You still need to have this expertise to check the code.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go back to our question, Vlad.
Yeah, so actually those cases that we shared really proving the fact that you need to have a good leadership on a merchant side, on your business side, or at least have a very well proven partner that could help you out with things. There could be different type of partners, so just need to find the good one. Alexander, you have not shared the scam ways from your side that you have seen and
From
heard
my
about.
side,
From your side. I'm not saying that you've done those.
you say
I'm not
that
from
it's
the police, but yeah, I want to hear your experience on this area.
there are actually plenty, there are plenty things that I not say some of them are actually experienced, but not not the part who are doing things, but rather like victims of the, let's say, unfair schemas. But let me just think. But probably the most common one that I heard a lot and also saw a lot at how it happens. It's sometimes not really the way that you're trying to, or agencies trying to, make something unfair or to cheat, but it's just how it happens. I call it estimate spoofing, when basically the estimate for implementation, when we are working with agencies, you are paying for some work that's need to be done, and work need to be estimated. Usually it's being estimated in working hours. It's not like they are hiring developer and that this developer has 160 hours per month, and then you can start doing things for his 160 hours. Here you're basically paying for every hour that you buy from agency. Therefore, agency need to estimate and sell you this implementation in the way that will be the most convenient for you. Either you want to it's just in a full swing, the best implementation possible, or you want to make your feature in the cheapest way that it can be achieved. And here I saw the perfect schema. That's when you asking developer to give an estimate. Perfect schema how it's going wrong, but without bad intention. Yeah, that's important clarification. So developer is just starting by estimating something for 2 hours. Then this estimate come to the project manager. Project manager see okay, then 2 hours for developer, that probably will be 1 hour for QA, and then there will be half hour for project manager to communicate. Then let's round it up to 4 hours. Then this 4 hours come to the business consultant or whoever. You'll talk with the client. If it's not the project manager who are talking directly with the client, then this person see okay, 4 hours, then probably there will be some risks and there could be some additional communication involved. Let's round it up to 8. So basically we are from 2 hours of development getting 8 hours that is trying to be sold to the client. And it didn't happen like intentionally. It's rather that the problem that agency are trying to push risks into part of their merchant, and it's doesn't really fair, and it's usually something that you would need to communicate in front with the merchant. But for the merchant, I think that the best way to deal with this situation is always ask agency to provide a breakdown what exactly they are paying for. Not like to implement this feature we need 60 hours. No, like we would need to, I don't know, add some UI part into the admin and so on and so on. Because usually the more you are breaking down things, the more kind of you as a merchant are like confident that there's nothing, that they're trying to sell you something that you don't need to. And so also for agency that they are providing like more transparent communication, because at the end, like if yes, this is the amount of hours that you need to spend to doing this feature, then maybe it can be done differently, or some of the parties just need to be removed. But and then you're ending up to having the trusted relationship between both parts. And we are actually victim in this, let's say, code schema. There was some kind of the project when we built a module for a third party to reconnect. And that time there was like very tough on resources, and we asked another company to provide us this service. We are basically worked on the high level things that we only need development hours for somebody who can implement things. And they started working on these things, and it also happened like without my participation. But then I was asked, like, the project manager asked me, could you please have a look? Like, I feel that something is going wrong. We started to break down like what was estimated, what was promised, what is going on. And we found that there was like 30 hours estimated by this agency. And that's like a big agency with reputation. And you usually used to trusting to the big companies, and it's ended
Is
up
it
that
from the country a little bit northern
I
from
won't tell.
Ukraine?
I won't tell anything about it, but the fun part that they're like estimated for 30 hours
Do
for
they like
test
potatoes?
for tests implementation. I won't tell the name of the company. It will be, let's say, not polite if we can use this word in this context. But anyway,
Right,
like they
potato.
sold us 30 hours of tests that, like, I don't know, the project manager just skipped in the initial estimate that they asked about it. And in the end, like when we asked, like, okay, guys, can you tell us, like, what's not tell us, but show us, like, what these hours were spent on? They showed like 2 files with unit tests that I believe now you just spent half an hour asking ChatGPT to write. And we're like, okay, let's probably break down this situation. And ended up that we stopped working with them. There was like a lot of back and forth things, like who need to pay what you need to return back. They also tried to somehow change the situation, but the most important that at that moment the trust was already lost. Like we cannot trust them. They are like not a way that we are going to do another project with them. And I think that it was like even less than like around 6 or 7% from the total estimate, this particular part. And that's the most disappointing, that they just trying to, they ruin the relationship. And we had a relationship for many years on different other aspects. And it was like everything broken just by a single project. Then they try to sell us 30 hours more for something that we like nobody asked, and then they actually not expected to even implement it in the way that they had to deliver their service. So yeah, that was a disappointment.
Vitaly, could you tell us about another scam that you mentioned before? About the models. It's a very strong word from my side.
So, in my opinion, for every more or less serious platform, is very important to have good ecosystem, and big part of any ecosystem is extensions like modules, programs, and so on. So, in Magento world and Adobe Commerce world, we have this marketplace and a lot of modules there. And in my opinion, let's say a lot of those modules are not, let's say, efficient in terms of what requirements customer may have to them. For example, in many cases, modules are written in the wrong way or in poor way. They can break performance, can offer you a lot of features that you don't use. And with nowadays subscription model, you can end up paying a fixed price, like for infinite time, for things you don't even need. So yeah, I believe we have a lot of complaints recently about these problems. And having, again, this can be fixed by having great leaderships on your side, because sometimes even agencies can advocate for those modules because they are affiliated with module providers. So you need to understand what you install on your site and what impact it can have. That's basically it, what I wanted to say.
Yeah. I want to also add to that there is a support of those extensions, not always a good one. It's usually rarely the situation when there is a bug and you are going to the vendor and vendor is fixing it. In most of the cases, they just, okay, we perhaps maybe fix it in a next release that will be in a couple months or in a half year or something like that. And you fix it on your own, like that.
And I actually fascinated why, I'm sorry, Alex, why those modules have worse quality for Magento 2 than for Magento 1. What
Yeah.
changed? Like, why module providers at some point decided to lower the quality? And yeah, it's unexplainable. What do you think? Because in my opinion, to have better quality on Magento 2 module is more important than on Magento 1, because the overall size of the business and overall challenges that Magento 2 can handle is higher than Magento 1. So Magento 2 made for medium and big business. So yeah, quality is pretty important. And the funny part, for example, in my current project, we decided to have as little third-party modules as possible. We always prioritize writing something ourselves in order to not have all those problems with updates, with poor performance, with like poor code quality and so on. So in your opinion, why it's happened?
Because Magento don't really care about, Adobe don't really care about the ecosystem that is going on there. The checks that the extension needs to be passed in order to go to the marketplace is not enough. Not enough. To be honest, I don't really understand what are they checking at, because the code quality and sometimes the bugs and sometimes the even vulnerabilities there are so dramatic. Maybe they're checking if there are composed JSON, registered PHP, and model XML, and it can be installed on Magento. If it can be installed on Magento, that's fine. Yeah, like that. So there is no institution that is checking out on them.
So I was actually part of this process of delivering models to the marketplace, and I know that they actually check in, but comparison when you have 1,000 tests in Magento, when you're doing, for example, pull requests, the core code base, for third-party models, there was like, I don't know, few dozens, like 2 or 3 dozens of tests, checks that being run. So definitely they are not checking every possible scenario. And they also have some manual when there's a guy who opening your documentation that you provided with your model and just clicking and checking that everything works in the regard that you explained into that documentation, but still it's not being run in the, I don't know, the real production environment when you have 10,000 or 100,000 of different products, and it could cause some performance issues and so on and so on. So you are right, that's a lot of things to improve, but in general, answering your question, Vitaly, I think that the just Magento 2 become more complex than Magento 1, and there's like more concepts and require you to have a higher seniority level to build a proper extension. And that could explain why in Magento 2 the quality of extensions become lower than with Magento 1.
Any other relationship pitfalls with the agency, guys?
Yeah, I could think about few actually. One I was like know about the things like when agencies are trying to build a lock-in on their platform when they are selling services to customer. That could be done in very different ways. There could be, for example, I don't know, if you are working with Magento, and it's hosted on premise, then the merchant doesn't receive access to the platform itself. They can only see the admin panel, they can see the storefront, but they cannot access the code, they cannot access the hosting, they cannot access database directly. So they only paying agencies, and if they are not happy with the agency and then one moment they decide to leave, it appeared that in the contract there's nothing mentioned about the ownership of these things, and it's a gray area. And they are starting to have a negotiation like how many hours or what the terms of the termination contract should be, so the merchant can receive their store or at least data or whatever from their system in order to move forward. And it's kind of really unfair, and it's why important for merchants from the very beginning to build a like full understanding when this moment can come, like what they can get out with.
Yeah.
What
So
they
don't sign a contract with a blank check or something like that. Just read it out and add the wallet points. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Vital, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, and I would like to mention the most common pitfalls that usually like, let's say not usually, but very often happens. It's fake competence. Like fake it until you make it. When agencies don't actually have competence to run your project, this is when very often happens. Like for us to work on after that agencies and bringing back the project to life. So yeah, this is I cannot recommend anything in this case because I never was decision maker, right, to hire some agency. But this is what I deal with very often working after those agencies. So maybe part of solution would be again having strong leadership on your side, so you cannot you could have an ability to check whether those guys are really competent.
This also could be done differently. We had similar experience, but this time we are the part who are really experienced with the things that we need to build. But we communicated upfront with the client that there is a situation like we are ready to invest into education of our developers. That they'll learn something, and we'll try to do our the best. And we have a lot of ton experience in e-commerce, but in this specific project, it was, I guess, some Shopify application. We don't have experience with Shopify too much, but we have experience with building like services for similar things. And it went really well. Like we ended up with a running application. Everybody was happy. We are happy that we have a new expertise inside. A client happy that they've saved some money. We took the part of expenses, and they also have the running application. So yeah, it went really well.
Yeah, it's important to communicate it very openly, and that could work out pretty good, right? If you have already good relationships with the agency, with your partner.
Yeah, admit and make it way better than fake it and
Yeah, fake, make it.
For your relationship and your reputation, definitely that's much better option.
That's true.
Yeah, I just started to think about another way that can be unfair relationship between agency and the business is when the agency starts selling any kind of support packages, when they guarantee your hosting, you guarantee your some upgrades, they guarantee you security upgrades, installation of latest security improvements for your system, and so on and so on. And the main point to tell the merchant, just relax, we'll do everything for you that you need to take care of. And usually it's ended up that the price that's being paid for this service is much higher than the service itself. And I guess that even the recent situation, like with Session Reaper, that's the vulnerability that was exploited in Magento 2 and Adobe Commerce, it was like informed, I guess, in September, if I'm not wrong, it was in September publicly available, the patch and the explanation for the vulnerability. But still, when it happened 22nd of October, there was like 2/3 of all Magento stores that were still vulnerable into the, and that simple patch in the like 3 lines of changes in the code that was fully backward compatible could save you from being compromised. And it's so like dumb. And I mean, I would also imagine that the merchant, they paid some subscription fee for staying secure, but and then that they received like all these issues that they need to deal with after, just because they trusted.
I would say if you have experienced something like that with the agency at least once, because security is super important, you should just leave it. You should think about moving out from that, and that's it, because that's not the trusted partner you should work with. I wanted to also talk about the potential pitfall with the relationship with the agency is when the agency has too many layers between the person that is making an agreement with the merchant, with the business, and the person that is actually implementing all of that. It's super hard to deliver something efficiently if you have 3-4 layers of the managers that are telling the developer what to do, or the marketing specialist what to do, or SEO specialist what to do, and etc. So I would also try to avoid the agency that has so many layers. I would think about how we can find someone that has a direct connection with the implementer. That would also tell you about the level of this implementer, the seniority level of this implementer. So you cannot build a great web shop if your developer is a junior developer that is using AI, right? But if your developer is a senior level, he can freely communicate with you as with a business owner on a business level, various problems, and understand them and try to help you. The delivery time would be significantly faster. The speed of the development will be also higher, and the quality will be better. And then the price will be a bit cheaper, I would say, because less managers, less price for everything.
Yeah, but you're totally right. As I also mentioned, that there could be the way for estimate spoofing when you just pass an estimate through all these layers and it's just becoming bigger and bigger.
It's not only about estimates, it also can create a harsh environment for agency itself when you have a lot of layers. Another big issue can happen here when you have a lot of layers is growing bureaucracy, which can lead to hostile environment, because like there are multitude of people who have an opinion on which direction project should move. And for example, your tech lead can have one vision and might have, for example, maybe even better understanding of the project than CTO, who has another vision, who also, like, again, mentioning that conflict of interest, he also thinks about profit of the agency, and maybe, for example, can add some influence on decision making. And this is what I actually experienced. And for example, for tech lead being influenced by like third parties on his work, it's not always a big pleasure to work with that, because like you have your you have understanding of the project and what decision to make, and then like other people interrupt and add another decision, and then you end up thinking like, what's my role here then? Like what am I doing here? So yeah,
The less layers, the better. That's
yeah.
usually, I think, in 90%. Yeah, totally agree with you.
Direct communication always wins.
So, guys, do you have any other pitfalls you want to discuss or mention?
Maybe the last one that I saw in the few different agencies that happens on the moment of discovery and initial project estimation, when the things that are being agreed with client, they are set in the way that everything else is coming as an extra request. And especially when the agency know like that it won't be enough to solve the case. It just looks like it should be enough to solve the case, but we assign that everything else will be an extra request. And it helped them to win the client on the moment to start working them, building the project. But for a client, it ended up to paying much more than was initially estimated, and to build the project much longer than was initially estimated, just because it wasn't like clearly communicated that the achievement of these things will take longer. Agency knew it from the beginning. And it's kind of the hard thing to work, because I understand for agency to get the client, they just sometimes need to go in this way. But for other way, that's still unfair in terms of the relationship and in terms of how merchants see the situation.
Might
Yeah,
put
Vitaly.
stance on this because it's not always agency fault when we have like this misestimation stuff, because it's hard to estimate
True.
Magento project. So it's not if your agency miss deadline, it doesn't mean that it's like objectively their fault, because when it goes about estimation, human brain can estimate things up to 4 story points, which 16 hours. Everything above 16 hours is not estimate, it's forecast.
Yeah.
A rough forecast.
That's a very good statement.
Another pitfall with the relationship between the agency and the merchant. So the thing is, you are totally right. There is a forecast on the big tickets. On a big task, there is a forecast. And many merchants don't also understand that. They look at it as on a fixed estimate and that's it, and they don't care about anything corrupt. But if the merchant want to build out the partnership, the long-term partnership with the agency, he also need to think about the fact that the agency cannot give you the right estimate on everything. They could make the predictions and do their best, and you as a merchant should do your best as well. So it's about those conflict points. Don't go and demand why there is overtime in 5 hours on a 500 ticket. Like, don't be like that, please.
You're totally right, because basically the big tickets can be not accurately estimated only if agency built something like this before. And in this way, you
Yep.
can provide an accurate estimate. Other ways that either you spend, I don't know, day or two making design until they're all small pieces, and then you come with like a detailed breakdown, diagrams and estimate, or it's a forecast.
Okay. If we are done with the potential pitfalls, maybe let's brainstorm together and build up a couple rules that merchants should follow in order to keep the good relationship with the agency and get their goals done, achieved, and fulfilled, right?
Mm-hmm.
I may start. So, first of all, choose the right agency. And to choose the right agency, I think you need to follow the next criteria. Core values, much. The less layers in an agency. So you talk directly or almost directly with the implementers of the things that you're ordering. Is it a web shop or the marketing or whatever, right? And you ask your friends about this agency. Are they doing some nasty things, or are they okay to work? Are they happy to work with? And of course, get in touch with the guys that you're going to sign a contract with. Have a talk with them, see how they are doing. So just a regular, normal people communication. But I believe you're going to do that. Those are my rules, I think, to follow for choosing the agency. So for me, choosing the agency is the most important part. What are yours, guys?
As I mentioned before, the most important part, in my opinion, and throughout my career, I seen it work the best. It's investing into strong leadership on the merchant side. It's like a cornerstone. So
Agreed.
yeah, Sasha.
Yeah. I definitely agree with this point. So if you are a merchant and you need to have a leadership, whatever it will be, the person who you will hire, I mean, the technical person who can understand the technical things, technical aspects of your e-commerce business, or you will find a good agency when you will have a perfect match, and that's someone who you can trust there. And how to find this agency, that's could be followed as Vlad suggested again. Yeah, that could be some word of mouth if you have some friends who work with them, or you can use their a case study. I don't know, maybe reach some other businesses just to ask for a feedback or whatever, just to build a picture that this particular agency has a good reputation, they share your values, and they can understand you and your needs. Try to have a few calls to talk with these people, how you feel, if there any chemistry between you, if feel comfortably working with them. And that's really a big decision, and it should be done with precise accuracy. And usually the most problems come from a misunderstanding. So try to negotiate things in the way that you are both understanding what you're talking about, just to be confident that there is nothing that you are meeting and that end up the crack in your relationship. And if once you like faced some unfair attitude to you, then probably just go away and look for somebody else, because this is not serious.
No, look for the long-term relationship.
Look for a long-term relationship where you can trust.
Yes. If that's not working out, then if you cannot trust, the long-term relationship will not going to work out. as
Yeah.
well.
There are many situations when it could be a result of misunderstanding, but you still kind of either you are working to avoid this misunderstanding in future, or it will just continue and nobody will be happy.
Yeah, it ends up to the blowing apart things.
That actually works in many things.
The last thing I would say, avoid agencies that sell you hours. Try to work with agencies that sells you expertise and help in your business.
Maybe if someone who can sign up that they will help you increase your revenue in a year or whatever. I don't know if that somebody bold enough to promise something like this, but yeah.
So, should we wrap up, guys?
It was a pleasure.